Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Good
How
morning.
is everybody?
Good.
Excellent.
Very good. Very good. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started, right? Val? All set, and I'll make some announcements.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pick some t-shirt winners. So I'm just gonna randomly look at the attendee list of who's attending this session and
You want to do that now, or do you want me to talk while you're looking? I can talk about the featured challenge as well.
Yeah, go ahead. You go first and I'll look through.
So just a couple quick announcements. Thank you for joining us. I'm Christen Battaglia with WrenchWay. And some of our announcements are we have a very cool featured challenge on our WrenchWay app. So if you download WrenchWay, the app, and you go to the featured challenge, you can win a Sonic tool set and also some cool toolbox stickers. And then now Val is going to talk about giving away some WrenchWay t-shirts.
Yeah, so hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying TechMission so far. I'm just gonna pick a few attendees who are attending the session to win some WrenchWay swag. Congratulations to Bill Stagan, Joe Hyde, Tracy Hicks. I'll message you guys shortly.
Very cool. Thanks, Val. All right, so we're here today to talk about how to build a successful mentoring program in your shop. We're also going to talk a little bit about schools, because obviously schools play a major role in that too. And so just a quick little stat that we're going to throw out there is that according to Gartner, retention rates for employees who participate in mentorship programs is significantly higher. So basically it's 72% for mentees and 69% for mentors. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship for both the mentee and the mentor, right? And that's why we want to build a successful program to keep the entry-level techs in the business and in the industry. So I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves, and normally, in case you guys don't know, George Arrants is one of my mentors. I have lots of them, but George, I bug him at least on a weekly basis. So I'd like for the panelists to introduce themselves and then give a shout out to your own mentor and maybe just tell us a little bit about how that relationship evolved and got started. So George, I'll kick it off to you since, well, let me start, sorry. I've known George for several years. He became my mentor, even though he reported to me at ASC, he somehow became a mentor of mine. So George, go ahead.
Thanks, Kristen. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for having me. George Arrants, Vice President of the ASC Education Foundation. Been in the industry since Moby Dick was a guppy. And like everybody else, I've had multiple mentors over my career. I taught for a while, and I had some administrators that took me under their belt, was in different sales opportunities, and we look back. But I can also say that in high school, I had a few teachers that took a personal interest, and I learned a lot about life from them. Back then, you could still paddle students, and I got it on a regular basis, and anybody who knows me knows I deserved it. But I learned some life lessons from those folks that I still use today, and they'd made a difference in my life early on, and it's carried me through my career. Also, anybody that I come in contact with and work with on a regular basis, I also consider a mentor. We always learn from somebody else, and that's especially if we're listening to what they say and not waiting to talk. So Kristen, thank you, and learn from you also.
Jill, you want to go ahead and take this question and introduce yourself and then give a shout out to your mentor, please.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. So my name is Jill Trotta. I'm the Vice President of Industry and Sales at RepairPal. I've been at RepairPal for about 9 years now, but I came out of the automotive industry. I'm actually an ASC certified technician. And I've been in the industry. This is my 31st year. I figured that out the other day. It's been a while. And I have a mentor that has helped me immensely. I've had many mentors over my life, including in the shop environment when I was learning to become a technician. But when I came out of the shop environment and into a tech company, really had a need for a mentor to kind of help me to assimilate into that environment and kind of understand it a little better, because I'd really only worked in shop environments for most of my career. And my mentor was the person that I found the most intimidating in a room. I decided that if I was going to get a mentor, I should pick the person that was most intimidating to me and kind of explore why, but also somebody who had the features and was doing the things that I wanted to do. And my mentor, at the time, she was the president of Women in Auto Care, Tammy Tecklenburg. And Tammy's really helped me develop my career. I started as a contractor with RepairPal, and now I'm a vice president. So she's really helped me through the evolution of that.
Thanks. Yeah, you shared that story with me last week out at Apex, and I think it's so smart of you to pick somebody who you knew was going to kind of challenge you a bit, and that was a great way to focus in on how to find a mentor. So thank you. How about you, Ed? Tell us a little bit about yourself and one of your mentors.
So I'm Ed Roberts, Chief Operation Officer here at Bozard Ford Lincoln down here in sunny St. Augustine, Florida. And my mentor is Charlie Waters. He is the one that gave me an opportunity to get into this business. And I have looked up to him ever since. And at some point it evolved where we've become each other's mentor. We really mentor each other. But ultimately, he gave me the chance to get in this business. And after I was told no and that I wouldn't get anywhere, and I have never forgotten that, and has always looked up to him for that reason itself.
That's great. Thanks, Ed, for sharing. And I'm going to actually, since I talked to you last week a little bit about your mentoring program, you want to tell us a little bit about what you do at Bozard, since you're currently active in a shop or dealership?
So we have a tech development program here, and we've been doing it now since 2015, and it's been hugely successful for us. We're very involved with 2 trade schools, one north of us in Jacksonville, and then one here in our local city, and JTech in the north, and First Coast Technical College here in St. Johns County. Both of them we pull people from. We get different skill sets from them because they attract different people to them. And when we hire those guys straight out of the technical school, they start in a quick lane. And they have from day one, they have a program that they know what their next step is and what they need to do with stars or their web-based training, and then how to elevate themselves to where they move into the tech development program, which is in the dealership. Our quick lane's across the street, and then they move across the street to the dealership in the TDP. And they work with 2 master techs, and they're usually in quick lane 8 months to a year, and they come over and work with our TDP instructors for 8 months to a year again. And then they leave there and go into the shop and work with a group leader for another. That really could vary, but it's usually around 8 months or so before they become a team member of that team or another team. And it's very structured, and every one of them knows what their next step is and what they got to do to get to the next point. And so someone that wants to work a little harder can certainly pass the one that started before them, because they make it happen at their own rate.
Great. And Jill, you want to share with us? I know that you've had lots of experience in the shop. So what are some of the successful programs that you've seen?
You know, when I first started, I worked for a company, and what they did is they paired every new technician, especially I was newly out of trade school, with a experienced technician. And what they did is then they bonused the experienced technician on my productivity. So it was in his best interest to help me to become more productive and learn. And that worked really well. And that gentleman actually remained a mentor of mine for many years in the industry, including when I opened my own shop. I hired him and brought him over to my shop. So, and I continued that same model when I had my automotive shop. I would hire, even at that time, 10 years ago, there were not that many really good master techs out there. So you were lucky to get one in your shop. So we would make sure that we had one, and then we would bring in people, and then we would have team bonuses, and we would bonus more experienced people on the productivity of the less experienced people. And that really worked well and brought people along and created competition a bit in the shop, and a lot of accountability to each other.
Yeah, yeah. Now, George, hold tight because I'm coming to you. But Ed, I know we talked about compensation for mentors, and you guys kind of take a different approach.
We are a very large shop, so we need to create technicians at a rapid rate. So we build about 8 to 10 technicians a year. And when I say a large shop, I have 100 bays. I'm working towards 10 mobile trucks. I have 4 on the road right now. And we have some retirees, but we don't necessarily lose a whole lot of people. So it's in growth. So we pay the TDP technicians or the TDP trainers a salary plus a rate per hour that the team produces, because those guys are working on cars and producing flat rate hours, just not at the rate that a full technician would.
So just a little different, but and does that seem to be what's going on, is that most shops and dealerships are incentivizing or compensating for the mentoring that they're doing?
There has to be something in it for each one of them, because it's a challenge to not just go do your job, to show somebody every step of the way, because it slows you down. There's a lot of different elements to it. And you may want to do it, but you still got to make a living along the way.
Right.
So there has to be some level of give and take there. And if we're just asking them to train our people and just taking from them, then it's not really a balanced relationship.
Mhm.
It's one-sided. So we got to keep it balanced as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, George. So I know that you have some opinions on how to identify a mentor. You want to share with us?
Christen and everybody. So the mentor is probably the most important decision you'll make in this entire process. And it's not something you decide on Monday morning, 30 minutes before the apprentice shows up. This needs to be done in advance. There should be some training. And it's not always, it shouldn't be your best technician, because a lot of times they're so production oriented that they don't have the time or potentially the skill sets to be a mentor. Some people say a technician who's been 5 years in the industry and at least a year with you would be good, but also somebody who's already involved in youth activities, whether it's Pop Warner football, Little League, church, or whatever. But a great man, Don Gray, who was president of Automotive Youth Education Systems, I think he said it best. And he said, it's 4:30 Friday afternoon, and Miss Smith pulls up in the service drive, and she's a great customer. Who are you going to ask to stay? That's probably the person that you're looking for also. And to everybody else's point is, remember, this mentor is growing your business. So if you look at what you're doing, you're investing in the future workforce. Those folks that look at it as an expense are in it for the wrong reason. And the mentor should never lose in this, because they are creating your pipeline of future workers. In the old AES model, the mentor received all of the flag hours that the technician had. If the shop was hourly, there was a compensation package, but also recognizing that individual for who they are in your organization as a mentor. And you will find that there are other folks in your organization that didn't want to be a mentor at first, but once they see what's going on with that individual and that mentor, you get some hand raising, and now all of a sudden you can grow a culture of mentors in your organization and move the mentoring responsibilities around the shop area. Hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. And so, I think you bring up a really great point, George, is sometimes people don't want to mentor or don't see themselves as a mentor. Jill, have you had that experience? How do we encourage people to mentor? Is it just, you ask them to do it, you tell them to do it? What has been your experience?
I mean, I think there's all different ways. So there's formal mentoring programs out there where people sign up and you get matched. There's kind of, I have an internal mentor at RepairPal in Kathleen Long. She helps me out a lot, and it's not like a formal relationship, but she is somebody that I reach out to when I'm kind of stuck in a space that helps me get moved out of that space. I mean, there's all different ways. We all have mentors in life that, you know, we come across and that kind of attach themselves. I have people, the other day, somebody was like, you know, you're a really good mentor for me. And I'm like, oh, I thought we were just chatting. I didn't know that that's what we were doing. So, you know, it comes in all different ways. But I think in the shop environment in particular, it's really important to have that be formalized, because I think that's the way that we're going to be able to kind of work ourselves out of the current situation with techs. Because also, I know as a female entering the shop, belonging and, you know, being included in that environment was really difficult. I actually worked at one shop and only worked there for a week, and I was like, peace out, I can't do this. And then I got a really good shop, and they really helped me. And, you know, that environment feeling like you're going to be supported is super important. So when you get a new tech coming in, I mean, I graduated trade school and I still didn't know how to work on cars. I knew the theory, I knew like basically what I should be doing, but the nuts and bolts of actually putting wrenches on cars every day, like that was kind of something new for me. So I had to be taught how to work and how to approach things. And you know, if we kind of just throw new technicians into that environment, like with sink or swim, we're going to lose most of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jill?
I love, go ahead, George.
Jill, you make some great points that I think some people overlook in what you just said. When a student goes to school, no matter if you're 16, 18, 24, 60 years old, you have theory and some knowledge, but you have no experience. The only place to get that experience is on the job.
Yeah.
And if we don't mentor these individuals into our shop culture, as I call it, we're eating our young.
Mhm.
And the example I like to use is you hired a kid out of this powerful tech school. They rolled in their red new toolbox the first day. You put them on a job and they screwed it up. Well, did they screw it up, or did they just do it different than you? They learned a certain process and procedure, and maybe your organization circumvents that process and procedure, but there was nobody there to guide that individual. And now this new job and the exciting first day, all of a sudden you're looking down on this kid and go, why did I waste my time? And that's when we have to look in the mirror and expect that these are entry level, and managing those expectations. And without a mentor, that's why we're in the situation we're in. In surveys that ASE has done, we lose 41% in the first 2 years from the date of graduation 2 years out. And we lose them to other industries.
Mm-hmm.
They're not leaving industries working with their hands, they're leaving us. And we had the opportunity to capture them, and we didn't. And without mentoring, the success rate is going to continue to plummet.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I can tell you personally that it is mentors that have kept me in this industry. Even now, you know, there's opportunities out there in similar industries and doing different things. And there's been many times where I'm like, when I took the job at RepairPal, I was trying to get out of the industry. And, you know, that's a whole story in itself. But, you know, my mentors, including my current mentor, like, you know, refocus, and this is what you're doing, and stay here and just keep going. You know, the grass isn't always greener. But without those mentors and without that constant, you know, refocusing on what you need to be focused on to be successful in this industry, you know, I could have left 10 times.
That's right. And as I refer to us as us gray hairs and no hairs, we were brought up at a completely different time. And the makeup of today's young people, they have that work-life balance. My generation, we live to work. This generation works to live, and maybe they got it right. And when you spend 8 or 9 hours a day, 5 days a week with these individuals, you spend more time with them than anybody else in their life. And if they can't feel like they're part of your family or part of something, they're going to go find that place where they can. And that's where that mentoring and fostering that loyalty. And my hat's off to especially Ed with what you said in the things that you're doing in your organization. You're growing and retaining. And the other piece that we forget is, what does it cost to hire a tech? And then what does it cost you when they leave? And it probably costs a lot less to do little things for the techs or your employees to keep them than it does to keep going and look for new ones. And I'll shut up now.
You're exactly right. It's a reallocation of funds, because it's going to cost you money of lost production. It's going to cost you so many things when you lose them. And if you reallocate that to retaining them and growing them, then it continues to grow. And I want to touch on one more thing. We'll let Christen have it back in a minute.
No, this is great. This is great. Keep it going.
Jill touched on where she said she was having a conversation with someone and they looked to you, at Jill, as being their mentor. And all of us, no matter who we are mentors to someone out there. We may not know who all they are. Jill, in your position, certainly you're going to have people come talk to you and they want to see how you got there, and that those are elements that they're looking for. And when we can hand that down and we can strengthen that in other people and make them a better mentor to the ones that they're working with, then we all win from that. And it turns into a developmental culture. And if I had to describe the culture that we have here, it's supportive. None of these guys are afraid to go help somebody. They're not worried about when we hire somebody else that's going to take work away from them, or none of that. And they're willing to help the new guy versus the guy that's been here for 15 years. It's very supportive. But that's because we push that down and they feel the benefit of helping each other.
And if you just step back, and we all know people don't leave companies, they leave individuals. And if we remember that, and we have to look in the mirror sometimes, and are we doing the right things for our people? And clearly, Ed, you are. But if we're not, we're losing those people, and the problem is internal to your organization. And that's when you have to look in the mirror. And what I've always said, if you've never been a tech and never moved your toolbox, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But if I'm leaving your organization, what I'm telling you is the unknown is better than you. And people don't like to hear that. And it's kind of right in your face. And they need to know that that decision I didn't make overnight. It festered in me long enough that I thought the grass is greener down the road than staying with you. And mentoring helps with that onboarding and that fostering of those individuals into your culture, especially organizations that have multiple maintenance facilities. Each shop has its own culture, and you've got to be able to grow that individual to that culture.
Yeah.
And when
And they
someone
need
comes
to
in,
feel like they're a part of it, and that they're a contributing member of that community, and that their contributions matter, even if they're not the best, technician, and they're struggling with things. Like, other people can be learning for that struggle, and that needs to be a message that's in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
if it's a surprise to us that one of our people are leaving for whatever the reason may be, even if they're just leaving because they're moving or leaving because they think the grass is greener somewhere else, if it's a surprise to us, then we're not involved in the elements that we should be involved in, because it should never be a surprise. We should know that someone's life's changed and then they got to move away or whatever else. And we should know that somebody's not producing the hours that they think they should, or they're not getting. Those are elements that we have to be involved on the ground level to pick up. And we can do it through our channels. We don't have to be the one doing it all the time, but you got to have the right layers for those channels to work.
Ed, you make a great point, because for 4 decades, we've been telling employers we're leaving for 25 cents more an hour. Well, guess what? I got a bridge for sale too. We're just not, we tell you that so you don't ask us why we're really leaving. But if somebody drills down to why an individual is truly leaving, then that's how you can start to fix or see things that you don't see. And let's be honest, you walk through your shop every day and you've walked through that shop for years, but a total stranger walks in and goes, why is that there? And why is that there? It's the same thing with a technician. If you don't ask them, or any employee, why are you truly leaving? We want to know what we did wrong, and place the blame on yourself and put them in a comfort level that they can say, well, listen, this is what happened. And we all know today, it could be something so little that we don't even think it's a problem. But for them, it's like that little pebble in your shoe, and it just continues to grind. Yep.
Yeah.
Another element to that we could help ourselves with is a lot of times we haven't created the openness or the where they feel like they can come to us and talk to us about something. Well, if we haven't created that when they work for us, they're certainly not going to tell us that when they're leaving. So a couple of years ago, we assigned it to someone else. Each department has got another department head. If someone's leaving, that other department head goes and talks to them and does a debrief and an exit interview with them, because it gives us a better chance of seeing why they're truly leaving, whether it's something that we can enhance on, whether it's life changes, whatever it may be. And because if they didn't tell you already, you hadn't created the pipeline for them to be able to do that. So give them an open channel to someone that they're not necessarily connected to, so they can do that.
So you say, but what are the channels before? What are the steps before? So you have someone from another department when you find out that they're leaving, right? But what do we do? Is it the manager? Is it the mentor? Is it who's checking in with the mentee? Or how does that look like at your dealership, Ed?
Well, if someone's leaving us and I'm having someone else doing that exit interview, it's not even someone in the same department. I'm having someone maybe from HR, maybe from the accounting
Right.
office or from the sales desk talking with them that they feel like they can open up to, because we've
Well,
already
how
told them
about
how
even
to
before that though? Like, how do we get to them before they're at that point where they're leaving?
That's a great
I mean, you should
great
be having
question.
one-on-ones with your employees and people that are working from you. And I know for me, I've really had to transform being remote, how I do my one-on-ones with my team now. And one of the things I always ask them, and I ask them this before I ask them tell them what I need them to do, is I ask them what they need from me.
Mhm.
Because maybe there's something that they need from me that I'm not giving them that is preventing them from my next sentences is here's what I need from you. So I think important to like look at yourself and say, what do you need from me to be successful? Because maybe there's a breakdown on that. And maybe it's a mentor, maybe that they're not getting along with their current mentor and they need a different one. But you're not going to know unless you ask those questions and create that, like, I'm here to help. I'm not here just to tell you what to do.
I love that. I think George, every time I call, he says to me, what do you need from me?
So, but remember, let's step back from this, whether it's a mentor, mentee, or somebody who's been with you 20 years. If you're really interacting with your employees, the signs are there. They're subtle, but they're there. There is some change in their personality, their workmanship, all of those things. The red flags are there. It's important that you see those red flags and try to lower those red flags before the ship sails. And I think, Ed, I think that's probably what you guys do a lot of is let's get it figured out before it becomes a thorn. And somebody over there in that bay is not acting the same and something's going on in their life. And sometimes, like you said, Ed, they've got to move for some reason and it has nothing to do with you guys. But if somebody knew early enough, they might be able to help them with that situation. And I'll let you guys expand on that.
Oh, and I'll take that for a minute, because Christen says, what do you do beforehand? And that's something that we all should always be doing. And I call it learning the currency of our people. And because people don't just come in here to earn a paycheck. They got something that they're chasing after. And George talked about live to work or work to live. And we got to make sure that our people are working to live, not living to work. And but learning the currency of them is what drives them. What is their fuel? What does their kids do for a sports team, for sports, going through whatever? Ask them what they did over the weekend. When you learn what they did over the weekend, you'll find out that they just celebrated their 12th anniversary. Now you can program it into your phone, and next year you can say, hey, what are you doing for your wife's anniversary this weekend?
Right.
But learning those things, and those people become so loyal to you. When you walk out to them and out of the blue, you can hit them with something that's personal to them. But that's very intentional, and it takes intentionality to go out and create those conversations. But you're already creating them. Now you're doing something with that data, and you're doing something that you can plan ahead with.
So Ed, to that point, when you learn about these little anniversaries or things, you could go and get $100, $50 gift card and hand it to that. It says, I know your anniversary is a few days away. have dinner on me. What does that say to that employee? That person isn't going anywhere. You know what I mean?
They're not looking
Or
for greener grass.
right. Or $10 Subways. Folks, have lunch on me. Thanks for all you did. We had a great month. And once again, with this generation, we've been giving them a trophy for last place since they were 6 years old, when we should have said, pick another sport. Well, now they're in the workplace and they want a trophy. And the paycheck is not the trophy.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I run a sales team now, and I create
Yep.
incentives. I could put like $500 out there for the person with the most, but if I put a $50 DoorDash gift card out there, those guys will fight for it like they haven't eaten all week. Like,
Yeah. Well,
they want that.
you're right.
You know, making it fun. And I know, you know, moving over from somebody who was in dealerships and shops for the majority of my career, we also have to think about like the benefits that we offer to people, because I can tell you what I have now is exponentially different.
Right.
And would make it hard to move back into that environment, you know, that environment with the constraints around the environment. So what do you do with some of those things? Just are, you know, a part of doing business and fixing cars and running a shop. What do you do to make it, you know, attractive for them to stay when you do have, you know, the electric car companies and the tech companies who have all this real like sexiness to it? What do you do to, you know, create some of that in your environment? And, you know, mentorship is an anchor of that.
And our people, what we're talking about with mentorship is really, they're looking for recognition. They're looking for us to recognize what their strengths are and what their areas of opportunities are and build on it. And another enhancement that we just did this last month is we all have these department employees of the month. And well, for whatever the reasons may be, no matter what department may be, well, what we found is that some people quit chasing it about mid-month because it's so far out of reach for them already. They start planning for the next month. And so we put a second and a third and the fourth, we put dollars out there for second and third, and we put lunch out there for fourth, so that they don't lose sight. Because really what they want is that recognition. They want to be notified. And if only one person's going to get it, hey, run that down a bit, because it takes a lot of people to make these things happen. And it's okay to recognize more than one person.
Well, and let's be honest, some days it's just a pat on the back and say, thanks for all you do.
Absolutely.
It hasn't gone unnoticed. And it's sometimes it's those little things. And we all know our people, and whether they're baby boomers, Xers, and let's be honest, Xers, they're just mad at the world and always have been. And then we got the Gen Ys, the millennials, and now the Z. But everybody's still, Tom Richardson said it best, you're never looking for a cookie, but it sure does taste good when you get one. And that cookie could be just thank you for what you do, and a handshake and off. And it's powerful. And we don't think about those things. And mentors, part of that role and responsibility is, even if there's a mistake, it's not a mistake, it was a learning opportunity, and we're all good, and let's move on. And that's what it's all about to me. And that's what's going to change our industry. And I still say there's not a technician shortage, there's a shortage of qualified applicants. And we need to change the unqualified to qualified. And through mentoring, we could. These are people that are interested in our industry, but for one reason or another, they don't have that skill set. But with a mentor, we can help them achieve that skill set and keep them in our industry.
And give them a career that they can carry on forever.
Yeah.
And we don't have a career ladder. Somebody doesn't have to die for us to move up. We have a career lattice. You know, I graduated from high school and went to work in an independent shop. And today I'm talking to you. So believe me, there's opportunities in our industry.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know, and when you focus on mentorship and you have a strong mentorship coaching, you have those things like Ed has in his organization, then you can focus on hiring for attitude.
Yep.
And you can focus on hiring for somebody that you really think has the attitude and the aptitude, but maybe just not the skills yet. And then that opens up your pool even more and creates a better culture in your organization, when you can hire people, not just because you think they can fix cars, but because you think that they can add positive energy to the environment.
and Jill, my Spanish teacher from high school, I didn't learn any Spanish, but he taught me water seeks its own level. You are who you associate with. You start hiring good people, they've got friends that are good people. And a lot of times they may not be technicians, but they're looking for a career opportunity. But if they hang out together, guess what? There's an opportunity to bring an individual on with the same mindset as these good folks you already have and just bring them into your culture. So think about that one too.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to be intentional with hiring. And we and a few people on this in the audience has heard this from me before, but we hire on 3 C's. And one of the C's are really irrelevant because, but I'll tell you what they are real quick. One's character, got to be a good person. It's a judgment call when I'm interviewing you. So that's first C. Second C is chemistry. Can you fit in? If you can't fit in, if you may be a great person, but just may not fit who we are, then it's not necessarily a good fit for you or us. And the third one that is really irrelevant is competency. Can you do the job? I don't really want to know if you can do the job, but I really want to know if you're teachable. If you're teachable, then you fit in. If you fit the other 2 C's and you're teachable, the competency comes with being a part of us.
My wife says I'm not teachable.
Smart woman.
And she might know you best.
She
And she still keeps them around. I've met Mary. She's a lovely woman.
we call her Saint Mary.
Saint Mary.
Mary.
So I think I'd like to maybe take a minute and talk about tech colleges or high schools. And so, Ed, I'll maybe punt this over to you because you did mention some colleges that you're already connected with. And so yesterday on our school panel, they talked a lot about being involved before graduation, right? So it's participating in the school on the advisory committee. And so you want to talk a little bit about how you develop the relationship with those colleges, and I'm sure it's not just you who's involved in the college. I'm sure you're sending your teammates and such too.
So I will tell you that a lot of times we chase these technical schools and we try somebody, and George talked about it, and they mess something up or whatever. We try somebody and it doesn't work out. Then we label the school that I tried working with them and I can't get anybody any good out of there. So I've done that before. I'm not doing that again. Well, reality is there is good people there. And in the school north of us, the one in Jacksonville, JTech, they have about 430 students going through their program at any given point. Well, like I said, I need to grow about 8 to 10 guys a year. So I need 8 to 10 people from them. And maybe I only need 6 because I got another one that I work with. But it will be clear to me, or clear to us, who those 8 to 10 people are that we want because of our level of involvement. We're there when they're during their first week of them joining the school. We're there and we talk to them for a little bit. We go there for every mock interview. We go there for career days. We go there for advisory committee meetings. They know us by name when we show up there, and we're the employer of choice for that school. But with doing that, with that level of involvement, now we're getting the cream of the crop. We might have 30 people apply with us, but we know which ones we want because we've been involved enough. It's not what somebody else had to tell us about them. It's never I never latch on very tightly when someone's parent calls me and say, hey, my son needs a job. Well, if your son wanted a job, he would be here. You wouldn't have to call for him. And the same thing there. I don't want the instructor telling me that, hey, this is the guy you got to talk to. He's the only guy we haven't got placed, so you got to talk to him. Well, I don't want that one. I want the ones that we know that we can do something with. And a lot of times they're outside of our industry. They're going to school to learn this trade because they want to get better, but they're working outside of our industry. And it's a great opportunity to pull them into the industry.
Well, and I love your first point about if they get someone who isn't the best out of a trade school or a community college, then they think that college is crap.
Exactly.
And I hear that all the time. Oh, nothing good comes out of that school. And it's just, well, why is that? How involved are you? I'm sure is what George would say. But it labels that school, and I don't think it's fair.
But sometimes you got to look in the mirror. Is the problem you and not the school? And to Ed's point, you don't want to be another table at the career fair giving away useless trinkets. And you brand yourself in that school so they know who you are. So on career fair day, they're lining up for you. And Ed, you opened the door for me. We have just launched our new Adopt a School program, and it's on our website. And it's for industry to get involved in their local schools. Something as simple as a guest speaker, having them tour your facility, advisory committee, career fair, all the way to shadowing or taking an apprentice. And it's simple solutions in a box and working with your local school. And just because you have a bad experience doesn't mean it's the school's fault. You've got to look at the way, and if it's multiple, then you really got to look at yourself. But if that school or those students don't know who you are, you're just another table at the career fair and giving away useless trinkets. So you're driving your brand to that school. They know who you are all through education, and they're looking for you on career fair day. Everybody
Absolutely.
who's on this call, whether you're a small business or a big business, get involved in your local schools. That's it. And that's your local pool.
I want
Utilize it.
to circle back to something that Christen asked earlier. She asked, how do we pay our people, and talked about how we compensate our mentors. Let's talk about the mentorees. Some of the best people that I can pull out of those technical schools are the ones that's working out of field, because their life has started. They've made a baby, they've done whatever, their life has started, and they have to work. So now they're working and they're going to school. That's usually a pretty committed person. And so one of the best guys that I got from, and I won't mention the schools where this one come from or whatever, but it's opportunity for all of us. One of the best guys I got from there was a guy that was driving a truck for Pepsi. He was delivering cola all day long, or sugar water, or whatever you want to call it, and going to school there. And one of the questions I asked him at the job fair was, why aren't you working in a dealership yet? He says, nobody will pay me. I'm making $17 an hour driving a Pepsi truck. Nobody will start me at that. I can't make less than that. And that's a lot of where we're at in this business too, is we try to bring people in at entry level and pay them less than entry level money. And I won't touch on that. I might hurt some feelings here, but ultimately, if we bring somebody in and hire them at $10 an hour to be a mentoree and think, okay, well, I'm doing this with them or whatever, I'm paying to train them, paying them to be trained, we're kind of locking ourselves in there. Well, in reality, when they mess something up and you go step on their toes a bit, or you have to counsel with them, they're thinking, I don't care. I can go find this $10 an hour job anywhere. And I don't have to invest that $10 an hour in tools. Here, you're asking me to do this and make an investment in my career as well. So we got to really make an investment in our people and slow down that turnover rate, and you'll get a higher quality person. That guy that was driving that Pepsi truck, he needed a job. He needed to take care of his family, and he would not have ever gotten to the car business if somebody would have hired him at 10, 12, 14 bucks an hour.
Yeah.
Somebody had to get there and put him in position to where he could make it. And he is a phenomenal employee for us today.
Ed, that point is, because I was involved with Automotive Youth Education Systems, or AYES, back in the late 90s and early 2000s. In the late 90s, we were paying $10 an hour for juniors to work in car dealerships in the summer between their junior and senior year. And 20 years later, we're still talking about $10 an hour. It's not an expense, it's an investment.
Yeah.
You got to move it to one side of the balance sheet or the other. And here in Texas, we got Buc-ee's, which is a chain of convenience stores. They're now in Florida. If they're starting somebody on the counter for $14 to $17 an hour and doesn't have to buy a tool, and then you say, well, there's no career path. Well, at 19 years old, they're not thinking about a career path, believe me, but they need to put food on the table. And we sometimes forget that. It's not an expense, it's an investment. And that's the way we have to look at it.
And they have to be able to live.
That's right.
Yeah. And I mean, being a new technician is a frustrating experience. There are things you're going to want to do that you don't, that are really hard, and you're going to have to push through it. And if you can go work at Buc-ee's or In-N-Out or Starbucks and get better benefits and get better pay, like, why wouldn't you do that? That's an easier path. You're not getting dirty. It's not so tiring. Like, there's a lot of reasons to not do it. We need to make this a really attractive thing for people to do coming out of high school, and there's all kinds of ways that we can do that.
And they're more flexible with the hours, and there's a lot to be said about that too. Yep.
I talked to a shop owner the other day who has a model now where her service advisor works from home. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, as a service advisor, I wrote service for many, many years. And I'm like, I would have loved that, like be sitting on my couch making estimates rather than like in that environment. I was like,
Yeah.
that's genius. And
Hey,
that,
Miss Smith.
yeah,
Hey, guess what? You need a muffler, but don't worry about it. We're all good. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, so what other kind of out of the box ideas, you talk about working from home, Ed, and flexible hours, is that something? And George, you just mentioned it, those are appealing to our younger generations.
Benefits, your medical benefits, like have your employees having to pay a big portion of their medical, like what benefits can you offer them that makes this, being a technician in a shop attractive?
I think the flexibility is gaining more traction every day. And, I know that where we live, we're a huge petrochemical, and many of the companies do 4-10s, 4 days a week for 10 hours, and there's a 3-day weekend. And I'm telling you, they get a lot of productivity out of folks for 4 days for 10 hours and for 3 days. And then a dealership, if you stagger those 3 days, so it may not just be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that you've got some folks that may want to be free in the middle of the week and don't worry about working the weekend because they have young kids that are in Little League, church, Pop Warner, underwater basket weaving, all of those things, and that flexibility. And we have to think about those things. And sometimes it's just asking them what works best for you, and look at them as your customer and find out what's important to them, and then go back and go, okay, 70% of our people said it was this. We thought it was that, but all they're looking for is this. Well, we can do that. But you got to ask, just like when you're asking for the sale, you got to ask, what's important to you? What do you need? What can we do? And most of the time it's something less than we think, but it's always different.
Yeah, I agree. It's flexibility, it's career path, it's options. It's options that they have control of. Put them somewhat in control to where it fits everybody in mind. And if they're going to school, if they're still at school, you have to work around that schedule. So the flexibility is important, but when you can work around it, then you can work around it when they got other stuff going on in life as well. So
I mean, one of my biggest complaints when I was in the shop environment was that I couldn't go to the dentist in the middle. Like I could never get a doctor or dentist appointment in. Like it just didn't fit in with my job. And now, I can take my mom to her doctor appointment.
That's it. And Ed, you said something. We did a survey late last spring of high school automotive students, because I call the leaky pipe. We've got a bunch of people in our programs, but for some reason, they're leaking out before they graduate. The number one reason for a high school automotive student not to take the next course offered in succession in auto tech, are you ready for this? No defined career path. What have we been talking about for nearly an hour? What do we talk about every day? We talk about it, but for some reason, our customer, the student, we haven't told them. And if you're not willing to be a guest speaker in your school, or if you have an employee that went to that high school and walked those halls and sat in that seat, that can go over there and talk to those kids about career path, then shame on us. And that's one of those moments that we were like, well, we didn't think that was a big issue. But once again, it's asking the customer. That was the number one reason. Over 30%, no defined career path. How sad is that one?
That's a huge opportunity for us.
Yep. And it's an easy one. That doesn't cost money.
Yeah. So I'll make another statement out there to the audience. We all would like to have more technicians. And I'll tell you, we don't have a shortage of technicians here at Bozard. Will I take more? Absolutely. But if I say we have a shortage, then that just means that we got to ramp up what we do and do it at a larger scale. But ultimately, running ads and recruiting guys from other stores around you isn't effective, because if you do that, you've created a hole in that neighboring dealer, and then that dealer's got to do what? He's got to run an ad and take one from you. and we're not really contributing to what our concerns are. And there's a lot of ideas that come out of this conversation today, and just try to do something. If you try to do something to help your guys grow, it will compound itself. Once they start growing, they will tell people, come here, you can make something happen here. So getting started is tough. And if you want to hear more about what we do, don't hesitate to reach out to RenchWay, and they can give out my information. I'll be glad to share anything we do, because I'm not in competition with the dealer down the street. We're in competition with the ones that take our customers from us. And if we're in a dealership level, that's the aftermarket. If we're in the aftermarket, we got to try to conquest from the dealers. I get all those elements, but I will help anybody around, because we're not in competition to take from each other. We're in competition to help each other and support each other, and we all grow from that.
Yeah.
Great point.
So Ed, you kind of have teed up my last question for the group, because we have about 10 minutes-ish. What are some easy steps that shops can take to start a mentoring program, in your opinion and from your experience?
From my standpoint, and there's all different ways you can do it, because some people are better teachers than they are doers, and it doesn't mean that they can't do. There's a saying that says, if those that can't teach, but that's not necessarily always the case. Sometimes people are better teachers. But what has worked best for us thus far is, as technicians, it's a very physical job, and young, it's very easy to do a physical job. As you age, it gets tougher to do a physical job. Well, as technicians, we learn how to be more productive. We learn how to be more efficient. We learn how to work smarter. So we get faster, and we don't work as hard to do those things as we get there. But we reach a point to where we just physically can't go that hard anymore. But you have all the smarts in the world. You've got 30 years of experience there. And those guys that are starting to wind down a little bit, they're on the other side of the horsepower curve, because we went this way forever. Now they've kind of plateaued, and they're on the downside of the horsepower curve. Those are the guys that can transfer that knowledge the best. And rather than them sliding down, then they can probably still level out and kind of be at the peak of their career longer, and it gives them more value. And you may take a guy that was planning on retiring at 62 and carry him to 66 and gain some knowledge from him and grow some people from him.
Great advice. I love that. How about you, Jill? If a shop wants to start their own a new mentoring program, what are some easy steps that they can do?
I mean, I think talking to the people internally and setting some goals for them, and see who's truly interested and who has aptitude for it, is important, and encouraging them and talking about the benefit and the value that will bring to the shop, and trying your best to not create a competitive environment, like, in a lot of environments. And when I was, at dealerships, and I was a technician at a dealership, and they would post the number of hours people were getting, and all these things to create like this, which was good in some ways, but not good in other ways, because, if you'd be discouraged if you're at the bottom consistently. Luckily, I wasn't the top, but I wasn't the bottom. Just working with your team and making sure that you have strong mentors before you bring somebody in and pushing that on them.
Yeah. Thank you. How about you, George?
Well, probably everybody on this call is involved in some sort of local organization or national organization. Find somebody who's already doing it, maybe go visit them. But remember, this is not a short-term commitment. It's not a one and done. It's a long-term investment. And are you going to struggle? Yes. Are you going to trip? Yes. But is this a solution? Yes. You have to invest your time and energy to make it work. And you have to be willing to look it in the mirror and say, yeah, we didn't do that right. And one of my other sayings is, egos are fat-free and we need to swallow them. It's not about me. And as long as we take the personal piece out of it, it's not personal, it's professional. And we're trying to grow a workforce that is truly needed in our industry. And if you're not willing to invest the time and energy, and you just want to go steal somebody else's, well, guess what? That's probably not the person you needed anyway, and they're not going to be there that long. Grow your own. And when you grow your own, the only bad habits they learn are the ones you teach them. Think about that one. So.
Well said.
Yes. Well, I don't think it looks like we have any questions. The Q&A is pretty quiet, which is probably a good thing, meaning that we've answered everything, but
They're stunned. They're like, oh my God.
yeah. But if we want to go around and if you have any last minute comments or thoughts, would love to hear them.
All you got to do is pay attention to the quote that is behind Jill. Do or do not. There is
Yep.
no try.
That's it.
Love it.
If you do that, you'll make something happen.
I think it's about investment. I mean, we all worry about gross profit. We all worry about those things, but you're not going to get a good gross profit number without good people. So investing at the top and it will pay off in the end.
And Jill, you just gave me my last thought. If you're going to hire a intern or an apprentice and it's an hourly rate, you as the employer or owner, you need to absorb that cost. That cost doesn't need to be absorbed in the shop where it affects somebody's profit and loss and their bonuses, because they'll kill this program in a minute. If it's affecting their bottom line and their bonuses, once again, what Ed said, if it's affecting their paycheck, they're going to make sure it crashes and burns. And once again, your folks are investing in your business to grow your business. You take that expense because they're investing for you.
Great. Oh, I'm sorry, Ed, did you have one last thing you wanted to share?
I was agreeing with George there. He's spot on.
He usually is. Yep. Yep. Well,
I
thank
tried.
you all so much. This has been fabulous. It looks like we have a lot of great comments in the chat. So I've just been I don't think there are any questions, but this session is always mentoring is very important to me. I wouldn't be, probably to Jill's point, still in this industry if I didn't have George and some other really fabulous mentors. So thank you all. This has been amazing, and really loved and enjoyed working with you on this.
Thank you.
Everybody, we're all
Thank
here
you,
to help.
everyone.
We're all here together. Thanks, Christen, and thank you, WrenchWay.
Yeah.
Thank you.